Welcome back. We are now on day 13. Check out the ocean. Look at that. That's terrible. That is riptides. That's not good. Can't swim on that. So today I'm going 30 minutes that way, 30 minutes this way. It's 3:55. I came late today. I had so many meetings, like one after another. Why do people have meetings to schedule meetings? Does anybody ever know that shit? Don't get that at all. So today we're going to talk about mortgages. Now, for the pre-sales, that's your chapter 13. Also some on 12, right? But mostly is 13. No, 12. You're going to have 9 questions on 12. On 13, I believe you have 4. Now, for the brokers, it kind of sucks. And I'll tell you why. Because for the brokers, you're only going to have 4 questions. That's it. No more. And that's your chapter 12. The problem, though, is that there's so much meat in this chapter that you're destined to fail this chapter. What do I mean by that? You need to study the entire chapter. I can't tell you, study this, study that. No. It's a tough one. There's just so much information in one chapter. I really wish they would make this chapter a chapter that has more questions. This way, it forces you to study more. Something similar to the pre-sales. That would have been great. But it is what it is. So, for you brokers, pay attention because as you know, I work with a lot of students, and they give me a lot of feedback on questions that come up on their test. So I'm going to go over the ones that are going to come on the test. And obviously for the agents, you're going to be more prepared because you had to be more prepared for the school test because you had 9 questions. But I'm still going to go over quite a bit as far as mortgages is concerned. And really what I'm going over is mortgages and clauses. Clauses is where they're going to get you. Let's start with the 3 types of mortgages, right? Or the best known types of mortgages. First one is FHA. FHA is a government-backed loan. It's not a government loan. It's a government-backed loan. Okay? They insure it. What does that mean? They insure it up to 25%. That's all it means. Just like PMI. Here they call it MIP. They just have to call it different. That's it. Now, what sucks about FHA is that if you put less than 20% down, you would never get rid of the PMI. The MIP, which is the insurance. It's called PMI in convention. You're not going to get rid of it. You're going to have to pay for it. That's it. Forever. Oh, what do you mean, Rick? When I pay 20%, when I have 80%, shouldn't they get rid of it? No, not anymore. This thing to do is just refinance it at that point. Now, what else can we talk about FHA? Must be owner-occupied. You got to live in the house. And you can put as little as 3.5% down. That's the least amount that you can put in. The positive is that you can get the seller to pay every single penny of your closing cost. Now make sure that when you write a contract that you don't put closing cost. You put closing costs and or prepaids because the escrow account is a prepaid. And you could also offset the insurance. But if you don't put and or prepaids, you tie the hands of the title company. And you say closing costs, it's only going to be closing costs. So there's not going to be no 6%. It's going to be more like 3%. So make sure you know how to write those things. Also, what's another kind of loan that's a government loan? VA, Veterans Administration. VA and FHA are both handled by whom? HUD, Urban Housing, Urban Development. What must you be to get a VA loan? Well, you must be a veteran. Simple as that. And what else? You You must have been honorably discharged. You had to have served at least 90 days. I mean, that's kind of nothing, to be honest with you, 3 months. Boot camp type of thing. But you must have been honorably discharged. You must live in the house just like FHA, and you must have the certificate of eligibility. Kind of says you qualify. Can you get finance 100%? Yes. Now here there's no insurance, there's no PMI, there's no MIP. It's actually paid by the VA themselves. So that's a little bit of a plus, okay? That's going to be a plus. Let me turn around and change hands because for whatever reason, man, even my arms are starting to get very tired. I don't know why. It's every day. Today's day 13, by the way. I can't wait till Sunday. Sunday's going to be day 15. You know why I can't wait? Because from that point on, it's downhill. I'm at 50%. Pretty good, I think. All right, getting back. Can you get a 100% VA loan? Yes, you can. Is VA and FHA assumable? Both of them are. So you can get rid of them and give it to somebody else that's assumable. Be careful, because you could be on the hook for the loan. Make sure you get a novation if the buyer qualifies. What else is another type of loan? Conventional. Conventional is another type of loan. That is when you go to Wells Fargo, Truist, anywhere. Actually, you can go to any one of those to get FHA or VA too. There's no government place to get that. But conventional is private banking. Now, conventional, if you put less than 20% down, you're going to pay PMI. Now the difference here is that once you pay 78% of the loan, they will remove it. Now, if you've been in the house over 2 years and the equity has gone up where it puts you at 20%, you could fight that with the lender and you could probably get it removed as well. I've heard some people get it removed. I heard some people no. I've heard some people say, you gotta physically pay 22%. Actually, it's 20% of the loan itself. But I don't think so. I think with equity, you should be able to get it. But you have to have been there at least 2 years. I'm pretty sure of that. Both of them require, FHA and VA require that you live there. And conventional, you can remove the PMI. All right. Now, what's a non-conforming loan and what's a conforming loan? Well, most banks do what? They're going to sell your loan. To whom? The secondary market. Who's the secondary market? Freddie, Fannie, and Ginnie. Those are the three. They sell them. Does the secondary market service loans? No, they don't. They don't service loans whatsoever. It's only the primary market, Truist, Wells Fargo, and so forth. Those loans are known as conforming loans. You ever wonder when you go to a bank and you say, I want to get a loan. And they tell you, well, I need 2 years worth of work. I need 2 months worth of your bank statements. I need 1 month worth of your pay stubs. And you got to have this credit and that credit. And you're like, well, let me go to a different bank. And you go to a different bank. And they ask for the exact same thing. And you're like, wait a minute, what's the difference between Truist and Wells Fargo? It's not them. It's the secondary market. Because the secondary market are the ones that put the rules. If you want us to buy the loan has to come to us in a certain manner. If not, it's considered as a non-conforming loan, which means the secondary market will not buy it. Simple. Now they're stuck with the loan. That's called warehousing. And they don't want to do that. Banks love to do 20, $30 million worth of loans, and they package it, they sell it to the secondary market for a fee, of course, and then the secondary market does not service them. Who services? The primary, and they love it. All they do is just a ledger. Oh, got the payment, so much went to escrow, so much went for taxes. That's it. They just send them a ledger. They don't get paid much for that. Very little. Like minimal, 35, maybe $40 alone. But it's now multiply that times thousands. You see that? Now it makes all the sense in the world. Right? So they borrow the money from the Fed, actually. They loan it to us, they sell it to the secondary market, and now they free up the $30, $40 million. They do the process all over again, and they're making, a minimal amount per file. But it adds up. And it's pure profit, really. All right, so let's talk about some of the clauses. The first clause we're going to talk about is called the defeasance clause. Now, in the brokers, you didn't see this in the class. But in the state, you may well. Pre-sales, you had to know this in the class. So what's defeasance clause? Defeasance clause protects the mortgagor, the borrower, the owner of the property, the buyer. Why? Because it says as long as you're making payments, as long as you're trying to make ends meet, you're fine. They cannot change the loan. They cannot do anything. So it protects the borrower to make sure that the lender doesn't go like, oh, okay, you had the loan a year. We're going to bring it down to 20 years instead of 30. And we're going to bring up your interest rate. That's what it does. It protects against that. By the way, that is the only clause that is required in a mortgage. The next clause, escalation clause, also known as escalator clause. What is this? Well, if you use the property for something else than it was intended, the bank has the right to change the interest rate. Let's say you use the property to live there, and you don't. You rent it out, or you gut it out and turn it into an apartment complex. You're not supposed to. It's a single family. So the bank finds out, and they do, by the way, they have quality control. And not every house gets quality control, but they do have that. They come back to you, they'll change the interest rate. You know who has this clause? Credit cards. You ever seen those credit cards where they say, hey, bring all your loans over here, and we'll go ahead and swallow all that for you and pay 0% interest. And you're like, hell yeah. And you transfer everything to that new loan. Be late one day. One day. Next month, 23% or 27%. And you're like, well, it wasn't me. I mailed the money in on time. Well, they don't care. It's based on when they receive it. So credit cards are very known for having escalation clause, for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. Now, another kind of clause is known as exculpatory clause. Now, exculpatory clause is a kind of clause that protects who? Protects the homeowner. Homeowner. It's usually known as a non-recourse loan. Where do you normally see this? On commercial loans. On commercial loans. Can you have it on a residential property? Yes, but it's extremely uncommon. Why? Because let's say that the owner forecloses on the house and the loan was sitting at $400,000. The bank could only get $350,000. Bank took a loss of $50,000. Because you had that clause, they cannot come after you. But if you don't have that clause, they're going to come after you for the $50,000 in a deficiency judgment, for sure. They will come after you, absolutely, no hesitations whatsoever. All right. It's weird. Like, there's seaweed all over this place. They don't clean it up. I asked the lifeguard. Okay, they said it's good for the beach. That the sun eventually will burn it all out. But there's some trucks going through here. I thought it was because of the turtle eggs. I don't know. But today the low tide is low as hell. It's usually very low in the morning. It was riptide. What was it that died yesterday or the day before? A guy from the Cosby Show. He died because of riptide. What happens if you're in a riptide? Just let yourself go, man. You can't fight it. Just let it go. Eventually it'll waste out and swim parallel. That's it. You'll get out. All right, so let's talk about receivership clause. Receivership clause is usually done when you buy a multi-unit property. Duplex, triplex, quadruplex, shopping center, apartment complex. Why is this important? Well, remember, Florida is a lien theory state. So what does that mean? It means that you have to be sued. What does that mean? It means that it's going to take time. So as long as the owner is the owner, the tenants still have to pay. That's it. So what happens if somebody is going to go through foreclosure or they're not going to make the mortgage payment? Simple as that. There's no way they're going to make the mortgage payment. So now imagine this thing going on 6, 7, 8 months, 10 months. The owner is not making the mortgage payment, probably not paying the anything. Hey, how are you? Check this out. They're here every day. That's Henry. I don't know if you catch it. You catch him? There you go. I think they live here. Or nearby, like me. Dog's name is Henry. Real cute. So what happens in a receivership clause is that the judge needs to stop this. So what they do is they assign a law firm, or they're going to assign a management company or a CPA, somebody like that, to intervene. What does that mean? They're going to make sure that every single homeowner, not every single homeowner, every single tenant pays them the rent. So this way you have continuity of the business. You could pay for the insurance, you could pay for the electricity, you could pay for the water, there's money running, you could run the business. If not, the whole business is going to get completely destroyed. For sure. For sure. Now, what happens if you're a tenant and you're like, wait a minute, dude, you're in foreclosure. I ain't going to pay your rent. Well, guess what? He's going to evict you. Yeah, it sucks. That's just how it is. Completely how it is. Completely. All right, let's go to the next clause. Subordination clause. Subordination clause is when you can leapfrog one loan in front of the other. So what does this mean? And I'll tell you the example that we use in the school, and that is this: the developer gets a loan for the infrastructure, right? Everything for the sewers, the streets, the sidewalks. Got a loan for the land, all that stuff. Once that's ready, he needs a second loan, right? What's that loan for? The structures. He's got to build the. Man, my arm hurts like crazy. He has to build what? He has to build the single families or the condos or whatever it is he's going to sell. He has to build it all. That loan is much bigger than the first loan. The first loan is this amount. The other loan is much bigger. The second loan is not going to be in second position. They're going to go in front of that. So I call it the leapfrog clause, because it's going to go ahead of the one for the land. So the larger loan is going to go to first position, and the land is going to take a step back and go to the second position for sure. Now, what kind of loan does a developer get? Well, they get what is known as a blanket loan. A blanket loan. What does that mean? Is they get one loan for everything. Now, a blanket loan has to have what? A release clause. Got to have a release clause. I got 10 minutes still to go before I head back. So it has to have a release clause. What does that mean? Well, remember that if you get one loan, you have a lien on every single property, every single lot. The developer now builds a house, and the buyer is going to get a loan for that property, but that property has a lien. So the developer has a release clause that he is going to pay whatever percentage is owed on that particular lot. He pays it to the bank. The bank now takes out the lien from that percentage of the loan and takes it away from that spot, that land, and also the building, both of them. So now that property no longer has a lien. So the buyer is free to get a loan, and that loan is going to have a lien on the entire property. That is called a release clause. And you see it on a, what is this? On a blanket loan. And there's so much more. But those are the main ones. Tough chapter. It's actually my favorite chapter on the broker's book. It really is. Obviously, I don't have the book with me, and I'm going by memory. But there's just a lot of types of loans, man. Reverse mortgages from there, which I talked about it yesterday. There's just a lot of stuff there. It has so much potential for the student to fail. For real, and I'm not kidding. It just has a lot. It just has a lot because it's one kind of clause under another clause or another clause, and then another type of mortgage and another type of mortgage. No way. It's a tough one. Anyway, Rick Suarez, the Nutty Real Estate Professor. I'm starting to go live. My schedule is fluid though, has to change. I don't know if you get to see this before I go live tonight, but I am going live at 7 p.m. I will be live on Instagram. I will be live on Facebook. I will be live on YouTube. Something happened with TikTok. I don't know what the hell. So they suspended me for 7 days. I don't know why. I don't know what I did. They said my content, something about my content, but I don't know what the problem is. So I got to work with them. Right now, I can't do nothing for 7 days. But this is the schedule. 7 p.m. tonight, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. both. And then 7 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. That's it. And then the following week, I'm only going to be able to do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. For sure. Friday, I'll be able to do mornings and night. But I will post the schedule up on the social media so you guys can see it. And we can go from there. It has to be fluid. I'm sorry. I can't do it like I'd love to do a steady schedule. I am teaching. And I am teaching live starting next week. I'm actually teaching the Broker's Post. Anyway, Rick Suarez, Nutty Real Estate Professor. Go to my website. Got a lot of valuable information, study guides. If you want a one-on-one with me, you can do that. Whatever you want, man. I just want to help you pass this stubborn test. And it is a stubborn one. All right, guys. Till next time. Take care. Thank you.